This presentation will discuss two different types of variables found in research studies, independent and dependent variables. The independent variable is one that is manipulated to observe its effect on the dependent variable.
The dependent variable is the subject's response to and dependent on the level of manipulated independent variable. Now we will discuss some of the independent and the dependent variables present in the growth of a flower. In a typical garden setting, some of the variables present are amount of sunlight, amount of shade, amount of water, and the height of the flower in inches. The height of the flower in inches is a dependent variable since it is dependent on the other variables. Sunlight is, is one of the independent variables since it will affect the growth of the flower. This is the same for the shade and the amount of water. These variables can be manipulated, for example, pouring more water or moving the flower out of the sun. It will change the growth of the flower. The gardener plants a flower in her garden in the sunlight. Over a couple days, the flower slowly started to grow. Its height increased from 10 inches to 13 inches tall. The height of the flower is the dependent variable since it depended on the amount of sunlight and the amount of water, which are the independent variables. The next time the gardener planted her flowers in the shade to see how the amount of sunlight would affect the growth of the flower. She watered it the same amount as the previous flower, but this time she manipulated the independent variable of amount of sunlight. The flower grew double the amount as the first flower, from 10 inches to 16 inches tall. The dependent variable, the growth of the flower, was affected by the amount of sunlight, the independent variable.
In conclusion, the flower in the garden with the most sunlight didn't grow as much as the flower in the shade. The reason why is because there was no interference with the sunlight.
Since the flower in the shade had interference, the growth was affected significantly because the plant is trying to get more access to the sunlight.